welcome. It is May the 1st, and it's been a really interesting spring. I want to talk tonight, if you'll allow me, to talk about symbolism. Um, One thing that's been really interesting about a lot of things that have come up in all kinds of avenues, whether you're in the arts, whether you're in music, whether you're in advertising, whether you're in branding your product, or whether you're in religion, uh, at the end of the day, what we do know, whether we really fully understand it or not, symbolisms and symbols run the world. But yet, when we're confronted with certain issues that happen, and someone says, well, the symbolisms and the symbols of what they're saying will show you everything, people go, oh, that's silly. Um, I've talked about it privately on my Facebook for years about this. I really wasn't one to discuss a lot of these things publicly for a long time because I was in a realm where I really just wanted to talk to the people that I was around and what we were doing. And I thought that that was the best conversation to have in those situations because the general public or people that are just in different arenas of life may not understand the conversation and it doesn't really apply to them. But what's been so interesting the last 2 years is there's been a huge awakening of the power of symbolism, whether it's the Walmart symbolism, whether it's the McDonald's branding, whether it's the symbolism on someone's hat that they wear on their head, whether it's the symbolism that they put on their shirt for advertising of a certain company that they think is really cool, or the symbolism that's put into art. On many different levels, people are starting to wake up to the power of that. Maybe some people still aren't, and they're just kind of going along with it thinking it's cool. Well, tonight I'd like to try to bridge some conversations, if I may. Symbolism and images. Something as simple as a triangle. Something as simple as a circle. You know, something as simple as a square or a cube or the color. And the color that you add to the image, the color that you add to the cube, or the color that you add to the square. From antiquity, people have understood, high-level people have understood that on a subconscious level, so many people gravitate, whether they realize it or not, towards these things. And maybe they don't understand fully, consciously why they do it, but there's a certain energy that goes towards that. Okay? You look at Carl Jung, okay? Carl Jung was the predecessor in conjunction with Freud with dealing with psychology. Well, I'm not so fond of Carl Jung personally because of his pedophilic sense, and everything had to deal with sex with him, and he was really kind of opening the doors up to Kinsey. I'm not down with that. So I've never really enjoyed dealing with him, but I did spend a lot of time studying Carl Jung for a lot of years. He wrote a book called Man and His Symbols, and I don't have it to show you tonight. It's in storage because I just moved. But there's a book, if you're interested, and it's called Man and His Symbols. Now, if you are a Christian, you need to look at it through a certain filter. Don't make the assumption because Carl Jung was spiritual that he was actually Christian. He was a universalist, and he also delved highly into theosophy. But he was open to how Christians perceived symbolism throughout the ages. that language, that understanding of symbolism in many different ways has been kind of pulled away from the Christian doctrine. So many Christians nowadays don't understand all the different realms of symbolism that their past teachers understood it to be. We're not taught that anymore. And it's gotten washed into modern day psychology, branding, spiritualism in a universal sense. So when you read what he's talking about, please don't make the assumption that he is coming from a Christian background. He is not. There are some folks, I'm not saying it's bad or good, I'm just stating fact, that there are some platforms that like to kind of sell the Christian community on psychology based on Carl Jung's delving into spiritualism, because they want to kind of code it to say that he's Christian. He's not. He wasn't. That's okay. I'm just saying he wasn't. But he was very well versed in the ideology and the power and potential misappropriation to symbolism if we don't understand what the original intent was for that symbolism. Perfect example is the peace sign. The peace sign that is now modern day, everyone knows the peace sign to be what we think it is, peace. But if you go back into antiquity, it actually is an upside down broken cross in a circle. If you understand through the occult how important the circle is, doing all your magic within a circle, what it's really saying is within this magical occult circle, which is completely upside down of anything that's good, we're going to put an upside down cross and break it to create chaos. That's what that symbol meant in antiquity. I don't care what you personally want to think it means. These are what the originators meant it to be. And that is why, since that symbol has been brought up since the 1960s to supposedly, on a marketing level, say that it's for peace, have we seen peace since the 1960s? We've seen the opposite. We've seen chaos. We've seen war. We've seen destruction. We've seen loss of connection to God. We've seen loss of the belief in each other. We focus on the worst case scenario of each other. And when you bring that symbol into your home, it creates chaos in your own home. You may not know that, but the originators knew that. There's a book, I want to show you. The best way to do this is just to switch the screen so that you see this perfectly. I've been studying this book since 2007. It's called The Dictionary of Symbols, okay? And it breaks down every single symbol that has been used since antiquity. As an artist, it's very important for me to understand the visual language that I put out there on my paintings. There's power to that. There is. There's power to color. There's power to intent. You know, what you are thinking and what you are energetically vibrating when you create a painting goes right into that painting, whether you realize it or not. Well, I'm conscientious of that. And so for me in 2007-8, I really wanted to fully understand all the different symbolism, not based on what I think it means, on my limited perspective, but what antiquity and history and the originators of that symbol intended to be. We think that we have this power to go, well, we can create anything we want, and whatever our intent's going to be is going to be our intent. Maybe sometimes, but more importantly, sometimes we can be from an infant, especially in this current culture, we can be influenced by so much in our society that slowly, it's a slow drip of getting familiar with certain symbols, and we don't even realize how it's manipulating us. And then because we think it's familiar, it must be good, so we keep getting into it. And then we get so familiar to it that we don't recognize when the chaos comes up in our own lives, in our own work, in our relationships, in our journey. Because we keep thinking that that image must mean what I think it means, rather than what the original intent was. Perfect example is Disney. It's been unfortunate that I've had to raise awareness to this with friends that have children and have families. I do not. But I've been very blessed with having many different friends that have young families or older families or whatnot. But for the last 3 generations, people have been brought up on Disney. Okay? Now, Walt Disney knew exactly what he was doing with so much symbolism. And there's a reason why. If you watch, like, even the early days of Disney, the symbolism is like prevalent. And now, 3 generations later, with what Disney's putting out now, we can see the journey of what that conversation is. It has nothing to do with innocence. It has nothing to do with innocence. And I'm not trying to get on a high horse and say we need to be perfect, or that we're not going to have challenges in life, or we're not going to feel like lust, or we're not going to feel human. But when there is a malignant intent to indoctrinate kids into the recesses of completely annihilating their humanity, their connection to God, their connection to who they could be in this world, and raising up a family, there's a problem. There's a major systemic problem. And people love to use the word systemic for lots of different things on the opposite side. There's a systemic problem in the loss of innocence. And I'm no angel. I'm coming from the other side. Again, we need to bridge conversations. The left doesn't want the right to know what the left is doing, and the right seems to be so ignorant in bliss to not want to know what the left is doing. I go back and forth all the time in my world. I don't have a bridge. I have a bridge. I don't isolate. I don't isolate. And maybe there's a reason for that. To be able to talk plainly. To be able to, hopefully, raise awareness to people that have lived on a right bubble and don't understand a lot of what's going on the left, why they're doing these things. And there seems to be a conversation to blindly just insult them and throw them under the bus and say they're crazy and not understand. But we have to understand that a lot of these people that they call the left are their own kids. What happened? And when you realize that there's been a huge manipulation in using symbolism to indoctrinate and slow drip the next generation to something that's really gnarly, but you allowed them to watch Disney. You allowed them to watch all these different things. And then on Sunday, you wanted them to go to church for an hour and be like you. That's impossible. So there's the bridge. That's a tough pill to swallow for a lot of different families. I've personally tried to talk to some families in the Christian community for years about it once I woke up to it in 2013, and they were very angry with me. You know, there's nothing wrong with Disney, there's nothing wrong with this, there's nothing wrong with that. Turn on Nickelodeon. They're teaching your kids to be monsters. Listen to Lady Gaga. She calls her fans my little monsters. I mean, look at Kesha. She's sitting there on one side saying, I'm this victim of this person, this producer that sexually assaulted me. And then she goes on tour, and her live show is all about showing these preteens how to eat a heart. And she's got blood all over her face, and it's like vampiric. And all of these different parents, they're good people. They just want to fit in. I mean, that's what it really comes down to, is that you don't want to feel like you're some weird parent keeping your kid from being happy and being accepted in their social circle. I get that. I totally get that. And that's what the dark side feeds off of. They manipulate these situations so that parents feel that they don't have a voice in saying, look, babe, you're my kid and I love you, but this shit that's going down, that all your other friends want to go down and see, and you're 13 years old and you're going to go watch a Kesha show, and she's going to be sitting there talking about how we're all going to die young, and then she takes a beating heart and she eats it and she has blood all over her face, there's a problem. Now, I'm all about arts and the expression. I mean, I've been in it my whole life. I get it. But what are you trying to express? And also, as an artist, as an influencer, as someone that knows their power as being an influencer in the circles that they are around, whether small or whether large, there is a responsibility and there's an accountability that plays into all of this. And what you do, they will do. That hit me really strong a while back. I could see it just within my own little realm. Like, I was struggling with a lot of personal things that were going on in my life, but also really trying to push my art and push my persona, and thinking that I was in the right mindset of changing the world, and yet I was still in pain. And I noticed that the people around me that were following me were vibrating pain. Were they mirroring me? And that's accountability. So you have to retune as an influencer, whether you're a leader in business, whether you're a leader in politics, whether you're a leader in the arts, whether you're a leader in music, whatever realm that you tend to have a little bit of influence. And I lost my influence. I mean, I get maybe 1 or 2 people these days listening to me at all, because I changed my conversation so drastically from the people that were initially interested in what I was doing that they just completely checked out. And that's hard. It's hard. But when you know you're doing the right thing, and you really have to take a look at yourself, and you really have to look at the fruit of what you're getting tuned into and what is happening after you do what you do, the masses love death. They love pain. Go to the latest Beyonce concert. Those people spent $250, $400 to be told they're bitches and they're whores and they're cunts and they're all, I mean, sorry for these words, but this is through Beyonce's words. And she's some kind of goddess. And they're like loving it. They're like, oh yeah, it's so great. What if Beyonce stopped the entire concert, stopped all the symbolism, stopped all that stuff, and she said, you know what? It's not about pride. It's not about self-divinity. It's not about being some sort of goddess. I'm lying. And I'm making money. Because money's tuned into this, unfortunately. I'm going to go into that in a minute. If she's really honest, and she really cared about every single person for their own humanity, their own being. She really cared about her fans, and she really had a self-reflective moment. She would say, it's not about selling my body. It's not about selling my sexuality. It's not about me influencing all of these little kids to become strippers and thinking that if they just shake their booty all the time, they're going to be successful. Stop. Let's stop this concert right now and let's get real. I was taught this as a kid. I'm going to say this through Beyonce's words, okay? Like, this is Beyonce saying this. I was indoctrinated in this sort of thing. And this is what made me successful. Am I free? No, I'm not free. Do I have my own voice? No, I don't have my own voice. People write my lyrics. I apparently have this Sasha thing that comes over me. That's not being authentic. And I'm telling you that feminism is being a prostitute. Let's stop that. Take the symbology, and she uses tons of symbology in her concerts because these kids get excited, whether they realize it or not, subconsciously or not, about these symbols, because these symbols have been shown to them through Disney, through all kinds of different things since they were little kids. So they naturally gravitate towards it on a subconscious level. They're not thinking critically when they're in these situations. It's a ritual. It's like an inverted church. It's like being in an inverted church. Everyone's telling you you're stupid for going to church, and yet you go to these concerts and they're an inverted church. If Beyonce had any kind of sense, she would speak life into her fans rather than telling them that they're bitches and they're hoes. And she's whatever. I mean, some of the things that come out, I can't even believe people even sit there and listen to that. It makes me sad. And then you have artists, not many of us, but a few of us, who not only do what we do, you know, I always create. I mean, all the time. I don't mean to. It just happens. Whether it's writing, whether it's painting, whether it's bringing people together, whatever that is, it's always creating. And I want to create good. I want to empower people, not on a superficial level of being like, oh, whatever you do is so great. No. Encouraging them in their best sense and giving them a platform that in their journey towards really focusing on good stuff, there are people that will believe in them. I don't have Beyonce's bank account, and I got thrown out, in a sense, of the art, in the art world, talking about those kind of things. I definitely got thrown out of the art world as it is right now, because I started talking about the connection between the art world and theosophy, satanic ritual abuse, and what we understand now is systematic pedophile. Really? Yeah, there's a reason. It gets really dark really fast, and you have to make a decision on whether you're going to live selfishly. And you know what's really funny is that people will listen to folks that have a lot of money, and they won't listen to the people that don't. And it's a conundrum, because when you have a lot of money, you have to talk the other side. You have to sell the other side. But when you've rejected it and you can talk the truth, no one listens, because they're looking for the outward success to justify and validate your stance on your character. This is the conundrum. So let's go back to symbolism. Why is it that the most successful people, corporations, entities, whatnot, use a certain symbolism that always deals with ISIS? It's a very powerful word. It's a very powerful symbol. It's used in many different ways. It's used in money. The money sign is ISIS. It's S-I-I, S-I-I, ISIS. Why did they name the terrorist group, the so-called terrorist group, ISIS? I mean, this is power in the word. I don't mean to go off on different tangents, and maybe I've lost a few of you here. All one person listening. Thank you very much for listening. But the point is, symbolism. I'll tell you a personal story about the power of symbolism. My folks are here, so they might be opening the door. When I was in Los Angeles, you know, they look for people that are attractive. They look for people that have a certain confidence and a certain way, a certain thing that they know could influence a lot of other people. But then what they try to do for supposed up-and-coming artists, they try to mold your conversation into the dark. And I'll tell you how that happened for me personally. I already deal with a lot of dark. Not that I mean to, but I have walked this line, this Johnny Cash line, my whole life between light and dark, through family, through my community, through friends, through all kinds of different journeys. I've seen a lot of both. So I try to balance that. What I try to do is to transmute the things that I see that have been so horrific and exploitative and tough, and I try to raise awareness of it, and then I try to transmute it through art into good, into reconnecting after we realize what's been going on in the dark. Okay? Not a lot of people can handle that. That's a really tough conversation for most people because, again, there's a weird bridge. There's no bridge. Like, it's like either people live in this really happy, like, bubble, or there's people on the other side that live horrifying lives, and neither shall the two meet. And I try to bridge it so that not only can the people that have been dealing with the dark be able to heal, and they know that they have a support group of people that are there and are willing to understand, but it's also really good for the people in the supposed light living in this bubble all the time to know how to truly help people, or to really truly understand what's going on in the world. Not a lot of people are into that, especially art collectors. Doesn't happen. That's fine. That's still my journey. And with trying to raise awareness to, that's what happened. So I'm in West Hollywood. I'm not going to tell you the gallery. I'm in West Hollywood and I just landed, and I'm just doing my thing. And I already had a good amount of work to show different galleries there. And they liked it, but they said, our clients are a little bit darker. And I was like, what do you mean by that? They said their symbology is a little bit darker. And I said, are you willing to go there? And I was like, I don't know what you mean, but all I can tell you is that I'm going to always represent the conversation that I feel is most truthful with what I'm going through and what I see in the world, and how I can express that to transmute the bad into good. Next thing I know, interestingly enough, I'm not going to say the name, there was someone in Los Angeles who was raised up as a Disney kid. Okay? They chose him to be the next thing. You know why? Because he was down with the symbology. And this was in 2012. This kid was trying to say that he was this big graffiti artist. I know graffiti art. I grew up in it. I wasn't one of them, but I know the real graffiti artists. This guy, they would have torn him up. He was a little LA Sherman Oaks kid that was a Disney B actor as a kid, but he got indoctrinated in the right things, in the right circles. And what they do is they take the real stuff from the streets and they put the message into a certain chosen kid and say, oh, you're going to be that person. And he wasn't that at all. He wasn't a graffiti artist, but he did the right symbology. I'm going to tell you what the symbology was. It was a death cult. Do you remember when the Brangelina thing was happening before they divorced? And in like 2013, 2014, there was this huge influx in fashion and art and all the different high levels of whatever, the skull and bones everywhere. Everyone was wearing the skull and bones. And they thought it was cool. Oh, it's rock and roll. It's punk. It's so cool. And they'd watch their stars wear it. You know, this kid, this young artist, adopted that as his logo. Boom. He immediately shot up to like retarded fame. And this is through the same gallery that I was talking to. He immediately got signed to do Louis Vuitton ads and all kinds of crazy stuff. Listen, let me, oh my God, I want to show you how ridiculous, like how fucking stupid, sorry, I swear, deal with it. How fucking stupid his work is. He would do something like this. Get this. He would just do this. Oh, let's see if my pencil will work. Perfect. I'll do a Sharpie because he liked to use Sharpies a lot. He'd do something like this. He'd like, oh, scary, scary man with the bone, and then he'd sign it. I'm not even joking. It would be as simple as that. And Louis Vuitton would give him like 40 grand. He would do ice cream cones. He'd make demon faces, supposed graffiti demon faces. Like he would do faces like this. I'll do another one. I'm not even joking. This is so stupid. I can't believe I'm doing this. It's so stupid. He would make these kind of faces. I mean, this basic. I'm not even joking. And he was able to stay at the Chateau Marmont for a month on that one drawing. What's going on? Has nothing to do with talent. Has everything to do with what you align yourself in with the symbology. It's gotten so base in the art world, in the music world, in entertainment. This is not a conversation for either conservatives or liberals. This is a conversation for everybody. Because I don't identify with either. Like, I love everybody. This is a conversation for people. To recognize that there is an insane thing. And I know more people are waking up to this. This is amazing. It really is amazing. In 2013, I felt very alone when I figured all this out. And I was like sitting in my house by myself. And I'm like, I'm screwed. I spent my entire life wanting to be part of this crew. And that's what I had to get involved with. That's what I had to do to get success. And I come home. And it's like, my family wanted me to be good, but then they wanted me to be part of that too, to be able to say that she succeeded. This is the conundrum that we put under all of our kids. We want them to be good. We want them to be Christian. We want them to have values. We want them to care about their entity, and we want them to care about humanity and all these things, but we also want them to buy into the bullshit that feeds the stuff. What a conundrum. And symbols run the world. So I'm going to ask you guys, I know you have busy lives. I know that there's not a lot of time to really delve as deep as I've done. I get that. And that's why I share what I share. I should be sharing more. I should be sharing a heck of a lot more on YouTube. But I don't, because honestly, I don't think it's really going to matter to a lot of people. It matters to the right people that I meet in real life, and amazing things happen from it. But honestly, I think this is going to fall on deaf ears for most, because they don't understand. So But if you've got chaos in your life, if you're shopping at Walmart all the time and you wonder why your life is a wreck, it's the symbology. What does Walmart stand for? Cheap living. Guess what you're going to get? A cheap life. That's a perfect metaphor. If you feed yourself a whole bunch of fast food that's based on crap, well, guess how you're going to think and how you're going to look and how you're going to feel? Like crap. If you buy art that is completely against humanity and is really, really messed up, you hone that in. There was people are really down with the whole pop culture with music right now. And that's going to change soon. I can tell you, there are so many bands, there are so many musicians out there that are so unbelievably talented that are never given a chance on that really high level, like through Sony or Columbia, any of those things. They're never going to be given a platform. You know why? Because they're authentic, they're truthful, they speak their own heart. That can't happen. What happens with the pop culture, and when you get really successful, like Katy Perry level, Rihanna level, Beyonce level, Madonna level, you know that sex cult that they just exposed, Nexium? That's not got anything on what Madonna went through, and what Rihanna's going through, and what Beyonce's going through, and what Katy Perry's going through. Facts. Facts. These highest level, quote unquote, what we call performers, they were not given that platform based on their talent. They were given that as a reward based on their sacrifice to depravity. Sex cult. Sleep your way to the top. That what we understood sleep your way to the top in the 80s, apply it to what is now coming out through Q. Now, think about how high up and how awful and what nasty stuff you had to get involved with to get to that level. That's the truth. And we're going to sit there and allow our children, ourselves, to raise these folks up to say that that's where we need to be in life? Those are our heroes? Mm-mm. And then listen to their lyrics. Look at the symbology in their videos. This is not conspiracy, guys. Like, fuck that word, conspiracy theorist. Do you know the CIA created a whole cover called conspiracy to throw you guys off, so anyone that was actually putting it together has anything to do with antiquity and knows these things, they're called crazy. Let me show you something. I'm going to show you something. This is just a little bit. This is my little library. I am so grateful for these books. Now, I love my books. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. This is not to be prideful at all. This isn't trying to show off. But what I'm trying to show you, oh, this is a really good one. This is from 1920. I have books. This is on ancient harmonics. I have books, my family, that deal with all kinds of stuff Some of these are new. That's new. It's really nice. They go way back, you guys. These books have been such a blessing. I wish I could, I like, honestly, I almost feel like there's a part of me that just wants to start, like, putting all these books online just the way they were written so that more and more people could read these, because they're not in print anymore. And they won't be in print because they actually shed a lot of truth on what actually happened in those times, not what happened, how they reframe things these days. A lot of things get reframed to manipulate people to go with a certain conversation that ends up with them suffering. And if it's one thing that I do is I hold on to my books. If I'm going to move anywhere, I always take my books, and I want to share that with people that I know are interested in that. So, as an artist, just to close, because this is what I'm on, 46 minutes, my God. Sorry, I really can talk. I know I can talk. But there's a lot, man. There's a lot. There's a lot to all this. If you down symbology, you know, maybe you come from a situation where that doesn't make sense to you. It doesn't seem to make sense how that can be so powerful. Well, why is it that Basquiat's art is going for the amount that it's going for? Why do certain artists, why is their painting, why do billionaires, trillionaires spend so much money on just a simple painting? And you look at it, and it might just be a skull, or it might be a crystal, or it might be a triangle, or it might be a naked woman, and you just think, it's just a triangle, it's a naked woman, it's a skull, it's a crystal. That's what you think. You better find out why it's so important to the other person who's willing to spend $150 million on that. There's power in symbology. Now, my goal, and what I'm hoping with a lot of wonderful people that I know, and we're understanding these things, we want to retune it. We want to retune all of this. We want to retune arts to really reflect beauty and life, not death, not a death cult. We want sound harmonics to resonate life in the everyday person, so that they feel, when they're listening to this music, that anything's possible, and they believe in themselves. And they don't think the worst, they think the best. They give the benefit of the doubt, not throw someone on the bus without knowing what's really going on. They're not aggravated into assault. They're excited into kindness. They're not looking for a way to destroy. They're looking for a way to connect and create. Wouldn't that be something? And that's what I'm hoping is going to happen. It's going to happen. I say it's going to happen, so it's going to happen. There are some people that do stuff for the bad, and I know how to do stuff for the good. It's going to happen. And we have to believe in that. And know your symbols, know your signs, and know your fruit, and know what to tune into. Back in 2011, I was still trying to figure out all these things. Because when you grow up in a whole bunch of chaos, and you've got schools that teach you just to be a copier, and they don't allow you to understand the full entity of what you're supposed to be copying, but something doesn't feel right. And most kids just go along with it because they want to make a paycheck and they want to be accepted. I wasn't one of those kids, along with a bunch of friends of mine that weren't like that too. And we've stayed friends a very long time. We've talked about these things. And in 2011, 2012, when I finally was trying to put it together and understand, that's when you really figure out your mission. And then you lift up other people that are doing good stuff in their own lives, not selling out. Can we do that? Can we stop spending $200 a ticket to see Beyonce, who's going to tell you that you're a whore? To say, fuck you, bitches. And can we go into our own communities and search out the people that are breathing life into the world and into you? And maybe spend $20 on their event. What a change that would be. Know your symbols. Because right now, the reason that you spend all that money on Beyonce is because you're manipulated by those symbols. It gets you to thinking that that's more important to spend $250 on a ticket to see that crap than to value the real beauty around you for a lot less. And let's see what will happen. Let's retune. Know your symbols. All right, good night. Ugh, I never know how to stop this thing.